is up, gardening friends? My name is Jason with Jason's Gardens, and welcome to my garden. Today we are down here at the Drew Manson Center to show you guys how to pot an orchid from an orchid master of some sorts. So let's get into it.
Alright, Orchid Potting 101. We are going to first remove the orchid from whatever pot it's in. You never want to pot up too large, so this is going to be about a size or two larger. Don't go any larger than that. You don't want to go 3-4 sizes. It'll just stay too wet too long. So I'm going to put a little bit of sphagnum moss on the bottom. That's what we're using to pot today, is going to be sphagnum. You can also use an orchid bark mix. If you are a person that tends to love their plants too much and overwaters, you may want to consider the bark mix as opposed to the sphagnum. You're going to loosen up the roots. You're going to remove any roots that have died or are looking black or very dry and brown. Just loosen that up a little. Bring it over to the pot. I generally leave the air roots if possible. I like my orchids to look like the epiphytes they are. You want to situate the plant sort of towards the center here, if you can. This guy is rather large. Then you're going to take more moss and just feed it in around the outsides firmly to keep your plant upright in the pot. Once we get that done, we will go ahead and work on refining the positioning and the compromise that happens between a very big leafy orchid with a flower to try to get both of them upright. This guy wants to lean a little bit. So, I'm gonna tilt the leaves a little bit up. Get my stake, try to make that a little bit more in line with what the leaves are doing. Without breaking the stake, of course. Pack a little bit of moss in around the stake to hold it up if it's trying to lean a bit. We use these clips here to hold this all together. And I trim the stake right about the part, right about where the
flower is.
Where the flower begins there. There's usually a curve that starts. So right before that, we're using a wire today because this is going to be a large flower. It's going to help support the weight of the flower once it fully blooms. This guy wants to look this direction. So,
just a question.
Sure.
So I see that some orchids have like 2 stems and other ones can only have 1 without you having to deadhead it off, basically. Is this just this variety of orchid that can have 2 stems?
It's down to conditions. So this is a more mature plant. It's growing very strongly. It has decided to put out this large stem here and an offshoot. It may be, I'm honestly not sure if it's related to the temperature, the humidity, or the amount of fertilizer or light they're getting, but all these things interact. And the variety could be just predisposed to do that, but usually they branch when they're a little older and in good shape.
So maturity along with good quality and good conditions.
Yep.
Is the reason for having 2 stems.
Yeah, either the side branch here. Now, some of them will do a full second stem. We call those doubles. When you're splitting your blooms between 2 stems on one plant, sometimes they're a little smaller because they're supporting 2 flowering stems as opposed to 1 large. So you kind of, it's balancing
there's a
between.
Drawback. There's always a drawback in a way.
Let's say there's a limited amount of resources. So you have X amount of resources and you either divide it between 2 stems or devote it all to 1.
Okay.
So sometimes those guys are a little shorter. It's all personal taste though, and they're all beautiful. So now we've gotten this potted up, just making sure that it's not too deep. You want to keep the base of the orchid just a little bit above the moss. You don't want to bury it down in there. And this one is definitely not going to go straight. This is how he grew. This is how he's happiest. All right, I think we're ready to go. Any other questions or anything?
Okay, so I just want to make sure we have confirmed this. You have to make the pot 2 times bigger than basically the root stock, basically?
It can be 1 or 2 sizes bigger.
Okay.
But I wouldn't, like this is going to be about a 6-inch. We'll call it a 6-inch. It was in a 4. I wouldn't go from, you know, a 4-inch to a 10-inch. You know, that would just be way too much
room,
and that extra moss would just stay way too wet.
Okay.
So that's not just for orchids. That's when you're potting
that's
up.
Just general
in
plants.
It's a general guideline, yeah.
Small inclines.
Yep.
Okay. And I just can't stop admiring how glossy these leaves are, and it's how fake they look too.
Well, the gloss is.
That's a spray.
It's a plant
That's
polish,
what I thought.
so it's a little bit of a cheat there.
Oh.
Yeah, it does.
There's
it
no
blows
way.
off some of the dust. There's always going to be dust around. We're in an urban greenhouse. There is a little dust that gets in. So it just helps to shine it up and clean it up before we send it out the door. It won't be quite as glossy once it dries and you get it home, but it'll still have, you know, a nice little shine to it, a little matted shine.
So you don't need the gloss, but you can use it like after.
It's kind of a florist trick.
It's a florist trick.
Yeah, okay. You don't have to use it at home. At home, they're happiest just being left the way they are. You know, periodically rinse the dust off your leaves. I like to put mine in the shower for a little while. Give it a little shower when it's not blooming. But once the bloom is stopped, periodically I'll just give it a shower. It's a deep watering. It cleans, you know, the dust that may have accumulated off the leaves.
Okay. And pests. That's a common issue when it comes to growing plants in general. Is there any like common pests that attack this one?
Orchids are susceptible to mealybugs, which are small, white, and kind of fuzzy looking. If you happen to find some on your plant, the way to go is you can get a Q-tip with some rubbing alcohol and just dab the insect, or you can do a 50% solution of alcohol and water, so half alcohol, half water, mix it together in a little spray bottle.
And you spray it on the leaves?
And you can just spray it on the leaves. It dries pretty quick. You can spray it on the backs of the flowers.
It wouldn't damage it at all? Like
no, it evaporates pretty quick, and it's weak enough that it will disrupt the mealybug, but not the plant.
Okay. I think that's all my questions, unless anybody else has a solid question.
In the audience have a question? All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your patience.
Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time on The Gardening Adventure. Have a great day. Much love. Peace. We're out. Have a great day.
Yay!
Thank you. Thank you for...